Shall we bow? Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this country and this community and the blessings that you've given us. It's beautiful spring days. The weather has been brisk, but it's also been beautiful. We see your handiwork in everything that's around us. And we know that you are in control. As chaotic as this world is, we know you're in control. We pray for those that are in Ukraine today. As innocents have been murdered for their fight for patriotism and freedom. We pray for those families that have been torn apart in a country that has, for just wanting the freedom that we have. And we thank you for the freedom. We can come to a meeting like this tonight with different viewpoints on many different things. But we come together as neighbors. We come together as brothers and sisters in this community. We pray that all that's done tonight will be pleasing not only to us in this room, but to you as you look at what we do and what we say and where our heart is. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Chaplain Winters. Madam, will you call the roll?
Goins.
Here.
Slater.
Here.
Mason.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Raper.
Here.
Winters.
Here.
Epperson.
Here.
Hughes.
Here.
Alford.
Here.
Cry.
Here.
Blake.
Here.
Mull.
Here.
Peak.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
14 present and none absent.
Thank you, madam. Entertain a motion for approval of minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion from Commissioner Hughes, a second by Commissioner Goins. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes.
And Lewis.
Yes.
Thompson, sorry.
Thank
That
you,
is 14 in favor and none opposed.
Now report from our county mayor, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. Slowly coming around is a list of reappointments that I'd like to give to you. These reappointing the members of the Stormwater Advisory Committee. There's no changes. I believe everyone that's on the list has been on there for the last 2 years. So I just respectfully ask for the confirmation, please.
Can I entertain a motion? Motion by Commissioner Hughes, second by Commissioner Epperson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
I think everything else I have is with finance, so that'll be coming up later unless someone has something for me.
Anyone have any questions of the mayor?
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Can I entertain a motion for consent agenda? Got one Commissioner Goins, second by Commissioner Thompson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, madam.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, madam. Reports from committees and/or districts. We'll start with you, Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few things I need to cover here today. First of all, I'd like to ask Commissioner Mason to maybe on the next road committee to be able to put an update on an issue of a paving that's not been completed yet out there in Harbor Hills on Brad Drive. If he would do so, I'd appreciate it. I had a few constituents calling me on that particular work order. Also, I would like to announce and update the commission. We've got a TDEC workshop coming up in Chattanooga. I'll be attending it. I've been in talks with the mayor about the infrastructure ARP money that will be being applied from counties throughout the state towards the end of this year. I think Adam will be participating in that also. But just wanted to kind of give you all an update. We currently have in the two buckets that we had voted on with water and sewer, we've got $6.5 million for those two particular infrastructures. This is, and that's back, came from the federal government. So we have an opportunity now to be able to go to this workshop and then try to apply for some more grants from the state of Tennessee towards the end of this year. So, and that could lead up into a lot more millions of dollars, probably a lot more than what we've got on hand that will be coming from the federal at the $6.5 million. And also Bradley County is in a really good spot because we've got a complete master utility plan that is completed, where it took us about 3 years from start to finish to be able to come up with that plan. So I doubt that a lot of the other counties will be able to come up with a utility plan that quick. So that puts us in a better position to try to obtain all this money. And the overall plan is $18 million. So maybe we will be able to come up with all the money to implement the whole plan if that were to happen. So, but I'm actually going to go to this class on the 12th and try to get a lot of information and bring that information back to you. The last thing I'd like to do with Mr. Chairman would to move the resolution that's on tonight's agenda on the landfill, because I would like to see the landfill committee have a little bit more time discussing this and then hopefully coming back with a recommendation to this full commission. I think that's important that happens. I think they're working on some things, so, but I'd like to pull that from tonight's agenda. And that's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, pull it, and you want it to go back to the landfill committee, correct?
Yeah, and then I would put it back on once
Yeah.
we get that recommendation from that committee. Thank you.
Item A's been removed. Anything else, Commissioner Epps?
That is it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hughes?
Mr. Chairman, I don't honestly have anything new to respond to or to talk about, other than I've had several calls about the landfill and the liquid waste. Other than that, that's until we could find out more than kind of where we're at.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hoffman?
I was witness, second.
Thank you. Commissioner Clay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met today. Got a few things for you. Finance Committee, excuse me, met earlier today and voted unanimously to recommend approving the resolution you have before you. Right here. The resolution elects the standard allowance option for Valley County to spend ARP funds on government services consistent with U.S. Department of Treasury final rule for lost revenue and allocation $2 million previously allocated for COVID response for government services as allowed by conditions and terms of ARP. Mr. Chairman, I place this recommendation in the form of a motion. Thank you.
A motion, do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Slater. Any discussion? Call Blake. Yes, Mr. Page.
So we're approving using the money even though we have already started using the money?
We're basically what's the last name of that bucket?
The COVID response.
The COVID response bucket had $2 million in there. And basically, when the final ruling came out from the U.S. Treasury, they basically have a standard deduction of up to $10 million. We obviously received more than $10 million, but we're opting on that $10 million standard deduction to use it as we see fit.
Can I add to this?
Yeah.
Commissioner Pate, when I did the 6 buckets that you all approved, the COVID response bucket was less clear that it followed the guidelines. We had hoped that it would, and that was money that was put there for the fire trucks, ambulances, those kinds of things, COVID response things. Then when the final rule came out, they said you can take this standard deduction up to $10 million and basically spend it how you want to. So we're amending that. We're applying it only to that bucket, that $2 million, and therefore we know without a doubt we can use it for the things that it was already intended for, but we didn't know for sure on that one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner White.
So I'll add that when we met with the comptroller's office, everything, what basically happened was a lot of the counties throughout the United States were upset because here in the state of Tennessee, gasoline tax was hit pretty hard, and only the road department receives gasoline tax. But we weren't able to help them out because of the aggregate. You had to take the whole budget as a whole. So the counties were basically petitioning or lobbying, whatever you want to call it, to the U.S. Treasury to basically come up with something. This is what they came up with, basically the $10 million standard deduction. With the caveat, you still cannot use it to pay debt. So in other words, all of our bonds that are outstanding, we can't use any of this money to pay the debt. And you cannot use it to pay a pension plan. Well, we don't have a pension plan. So basically after that, the first 10 million, you don't have to itemize. It's basically what they're saying.
Mr. Peak?
So what are we using it for? We're using it for fire trucks
Yeah,
and,
the 100-foot ladder, so instead of going in and paying for this 100-foot ladder that the fire department requested a year or two ago, something like that, we're going to pay cash on the barrelhead, so to speak, instead of going and getting a loan and paying for it out of four budgets.
so does that cost $2 million?
No, the resolution says for the purchase of emergency service vehicles. Right now, and I'll have to come to you with amendments to get me the authority to actually spend any of it, but when I do, the first $1 million will be for the fire truck, and then probably, I've not gotten that far, but possibly some ambulance purchases may be taken out of the budget request and paid for with ARP money, which will help us a lot in the general fund. This just does what ARP requires, giving us the authority to do it, and then when you approve the amendments, that gives me the authority to do it, actually.
Thank you.
Oh, one last thing, you can't use it for recurring costs, obviously, because this money dries up in 2 years. So, there you go.
Everybody's mind's clear?
Another week.
We have a motion and a second.
It frees up.
Call the roll, please.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Raper,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Fry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes,
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also voted unanimously to recommend allocating up to $15,000 for the installation of a security fence at the Farmers Market North to be paid out of Fund 189. Mr. Chairman, I place this recommendation in the form of a motion. Thank you.
Have a motion, have a second by Commissioner Cry. Any questions, Commissioner Peak?
what is Fund 189?
Really?
Yes.
Fund 189 is where all the money that we do for capital projects.
And this is a
Light.
capital project.
I'd say yes. I mean, it's a construction thing, one-time cost. That's what we've spent, we bought the units out of, pretty much all the capital expenditures have been out of Fund 189.
I'm sure this was recommended in finance, but it's a fence, so we're gonna spend taxpayer money on a fence when the other ones don't have fences around them. So why do we need a fence at the farmer's market? I just want
I defer to Commissioner Alford on that.
some discussion about it before we vote on.
Go ahead,
The
Commissioner.
bottom line is that people that put their produce there, they put quite a bit out. If you ever go by there and shop it, you'll see a whole bunch of tables. So rather than have to take that up every night and put it somewhere and then have to bring it all out the next day, they leave their produce there at night. And when they have ball tournaments out there and things, they have a tendency to lose a lot of produce. And it's basically for security of the produce, and also we've got a restroom out there that needs to be secured and several other things.
So, but our other building that we do the farmer's market at,
We don't
it's
have
not
any
secure.
other.
We do, don't we? We don't have any more over there? Okay.
We have a farmer's market, but not a building per se. That's farmer's
Right, we
market.
do have an open farmer's market that does have
That's
fence
all.
around.
Yeah, they set up tents.
But they don't sell.
Yeah, but they have to take theirs out every day. I was just wondering why this wasn't brought to a work session so we could learn more about it. So if we've got 15 million sitting there in a capital project, I mean, I don't know, 15,000, is that what I said?
You said 15 million.
Well, 15,000, if we've got 15,000 sitting there, taxpayer money, I don't don't know, I wish it'd been brought to a work session so we could have got more discussion on it to decide if that's a good use of taxpayer money. You guys can vote on it, I guess, if you don't want discussion on it.
Anyone else want to discuss it? We have a motion by Commissioner Blake, second by Commissioner Cry. Call the roll, please, madam.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Mull,
Yes.
Peak,
No,
Thompson.
Yes.
So it'll be 13 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lastly, the budget hearings, the Finance Committee came up with the elected officials and accounts that are scheduled for the budget hearing. Based on the number that is going to be coming to the budget hearing, we're going to move the starting time of the budget hearings to noon here in the Commission room. All are invited. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All's good in the third.
It's noon the 19th, correct?
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Peak?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Howard and I have a issue out on Burke Road with a bunch of tires that have been there for a good week. It looked like somebody was dumping them, but we did find out that that is TDOT's issue, and they are going to handle picking up their own tires. So they have been collecting them, and apparently they're handling that. So just wanted everybody to know in the 4th District, that is being taken care of. That is not a dumping site. That will be resolved. Also, Howard, if you've got any pet projects over in the 4th that you want done, let's see if we can find us $15,000 to do something with.
Need 64 page.
That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Peak. Commissioner Cry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everything's fine in the 2nd District. I'd like to commend Commissioner Mason for the debris and trash pickup. We've got clean roads presently. Tomorrow, they probably won't be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Thompson?
I'd just like to mention what Commissioner Peak said there about the tires. The landowners, they gave him permission to push those down to the right of way. And TDOT's just a little slow picking them up, but that's on TVA and, that's a state and TVA right of way. That's where those tires were, so he pushed them down with his own equipment so they could pick them up. They just slow picking them up, so. And I know Commissioner Peak's got a lot of calls, and I have too, but hopefully they'll get out soon and get those up. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Commissioner Bolt?
5th District's doing good.
Thank you. Commissioner Slade?
I have nothing tonight, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Chairman. I reported last week, the road committee met last week and both recommend accepting roads, Soaring Way Drive and Talons Ridge Road. You have the approval forms before you, Mr. Chairman. I put the recommendation to accept Soaring Way Drive in the form of a motion.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Peak. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, madam.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Mull,
Yes.
Peak,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I place the recommendation to accept Talons Ridge Road in the form of a motion also.
Got a motion by Commissioner Mason, second by Commissioner Bloom, Talons Ridge Road. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Mull,
Yes.
Peak,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, there was a fire on Blue Springs Church Road and Tunnel Hill Road, and I just want to say thank you to all of the firefighters that helped keep that fire at bay. There were no homes that were affected. There were lots of trees that are now burnt and will have to grow back, but we are very thankful that there were no homes or families that had to be evacuated. So you don't really realize how much you need a firefighter until you have a fire of that magnitude on your land. So thank you to all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. That's about 80 acres, is that correct? Not bad. Thank you, Commissioner Record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one thing. I have a constituent that has requested an additional recycling center, so I'm just going to put that out for request or in consideration. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Peak.
The recycling center we have now, Mr. Mayor, how much does that cost to operate? And couldn't you just create another recycling center where they can actually just accept recycles?
Well, ideally, you man it, because it becomes a garbage dump if you don't. That's why the amounts say that the cost of the employees is not that much. Give me some suggestions on property without having to buy it, ideally. Let me explain why. I'm not saying any certain section doesn't do that, but when the city had it, there was only 2 or 3 sections of the city that actually used the service. And we've grown from 1 to 3, and we grew in the areas where most of that was happening. SPCA were to move away to a new location one day, and we had that property available, that might be a good location for one. That would be southeast, sort of. You might want it further out, but when the city was doing it, it was mostly northeast that did the recycling, is why we went that direction. Do we want to spend more and do it and it not work? If we had free land, it's worth a try. You got to buy the roll-offs. There's one-time cost. You got to buy the roll-offs, you got to fence it, and then ideally have a part-time employee that works it.
So we have no operating recycle centers right now currently, or we do have one?
No, what did you come up?
The recycling center, do we have one now?
We have 3 now, but they're north, northwest, and southwest, and the southeast is what the gentleman's mentioning that he's referring to. So why don't you have one in the southeast? The operative services, we might get him to man it. But first thing, we'd need property, and then you'd have to purchase those things.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Record, anything else?
No, sir.
Commissioner Winters?
Mr. Chairman, 60 Highway is moving on. We're now getting to a point where many of our subdivisions are looking at entrances and exits and how that's going to work. One of our subdivisions met with TDOT staff and local individuals that are working on the road and getting input. TDOT's been very cooperative to our neighborhoods. We've asked for information, and we have an opportunity to meet in one of the offices where they are right on site. So we can find out about one of the subdivisions, how we're going to get in, how we're going to get out. And they've been very kind to traffic. With the schools, they work an hour before school starts, an hour later. As school's going, they'll work. But when school is letting out, they will back off and not be working on the main traffic. So I don't think we could ask them to be more, at this stage, more cooperative with the traffic that's moving in and out of there. It's still tight when you're going into schools, but they do have some contact people that you know that are working well for us. I talked with both of those, one's with TDOT, and one's with Simpson Construction, that's the local contractors. So we're pleased with the response that we're getting for our various questions that we have. It's still early in the stage, and it's changing our whole perspective of how we drive into our subdivisions. Now the trees are gone, the names of our community's gone. So as soon as the progress moves with the road, then we'll be just like before. So they've been as cooperative as they possibly could during major construction. I pulled my little car in the other day, and the largest front-end loader I've ever seen went over the highway, or driveway, and went over to put the concrete out. I asked the guy, do I need to move? He said, you need to stay right where you are. So we've been working with TDOT pretty well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Pete?
I do have one more comment, Mr. Mayor. Would Elrod Parks lights be a capital project? And we have postponed their lights, I know because some neighbors don't want the lights, but we postponed their lights for a few years, and then we mentioned a fence, and everybody gung-ho and jumps on a $15,000 fence. That's all. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Pete.
Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Offer.
what's those lights cost?
Maybe somebody's gonna ask that. I don't remember, 300,000 or 400,000.
400,000?
15 would be
Little
start.
different.
Big start.
Thank you.
That 15,000 pay a down payment, though.
Might be the juice.
Not even Andrew.
Thank you, Commissioners. Moving into the agenda, can I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda? Got a motion by Commissioner Goins, a second by Mr. Mason. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, madam. Moving into the agenda, we pulled item A, so item B, Commissioner Mason.
This motion to approve petition to close and abandon a portion of county right-of-way known as Old Tucker River Road. And you see page 8 in the packet.
Have a motion, second by Commissioner Goins. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, madam. Item C, Commissioner Mason.
Motion to approve petition to close and abandon a portion of county right-of-way known as Spring Branch Road Southwest. And that's in page 9 in your packet.
Okay, we have a motion. Second by Commissioner Goins. Any discussion?
Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner.
What's the reason for closing it?
Commissioner Mason.
Just run up with the road superintendent.
If I could, I might help just a little bit.
Thank you.
There was a road that went into the property when it was bought for an industrial park. Mr. Rourke said back there, I don't want to say this wrong. But anyway, that road was cut off at the property line and a fence installed on the industrial park property. And they're asking that a few more feet of it be abandoned so they can stop people from coming down the road and getting to the fence, and it's a stop, you know what I'm saying? So by abandoning this, it really shortens the road a little bit because it doesn't go anywhere. That's fairly accurate, okay?
So basically, the road's not really a true road anymore.
No, it stops at the fence where we bought the property.
Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, madam. Okay, communication from the audience. Anybody who wants to speak before the commission? If you want to speak before the commission, come up to the microphone, please. State your name and address. If you're uncomfortable with the address, you can give it to Ms. Moultrie privately.
My name is Charles Donaldson. I live at 327 Michael Road Southeast, Cleveland, Tennessee.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
The reason I'm here tonight is that just for the good people of Bradley County, and I thank you first of all for letting me come up and talk, but for the sake of the good people of Bradley County, the 7 commissioners that voted for this tax, I hope every one of you get beat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else want to speak for the commission? State your name and address.
My name's Lake Mantoo.
Yes, sir.
I'm a developer. I need to talk about the roads that we just accepted. I think we've got those a little bit off. Talons Ridge Road is the first road, and then the intersection Soaring Way is the next road. Then there was the third road. It's Talons Drive. It goes from the intersection of Perch Lane east to the cul-de-sac.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mantoo. Do we need to re-vote that, Ms. Robert?
Well, I don't see anything else in the packet. There's two that I saw, and they're not even signed documents, but one says Soaring Way Drive, and one says Talons Ridge Road. So does anybody have the correct documentation?
I've got a plat. You want me to get it?
I don't think we can approve it without the proper documentation. Are the two that we approved correct? There's just a third one?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see how we can approve it without the documentation.
So he'll have to wait and get it approved. Okay. Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that road was one of them that was approved through the commission for recommendation, or through the committee.
Committee voted 4-0 to accept the Talons
Do we
Drive.
have the committee minutes?
Well, these are the only two that she sent over today, this afternoon about 4:30.
I don't think we can approve it without something to approve, Mr. Chairman.
So they were all recommended through the road committee, your last meeting.
It's in the minutes.
But Commissioner, she's saying we don't have the documentation of that one that we're voting on.
I mean, if we can get something that shows what we're approving, we could.
We don't have anything that shows speed limit or length or anything though.
Mr. Manhood, what's this gonna do delaying you this other road?
Well, I've already been delayed 14 weeks, and, you know, we're
And
trying
would you
to...
mind coming up here and giving us a brief synopsis of those 14 weeks also? I'd like to hear
Sorry,
this.
Mr. Duff. You'll get your time.
We've been waiting 14 weeks to get this approved, and we went to the road committee, and everything was approved. It's just been one battle after the other, trying to get this accomplished, but all three of them were passed at the road committee. I don't know what else to do. I don't think I know what to do no more.
Can you elaborate on the issue that happened out there that you told me about?
Well, 14 weeks ago, I called Matt McCartley. He's our county engineer, and he was to come, you know, and verify everything was done as far as the documentation, and they didn't like the paving. Then he said the only way, he and Sandra come back and told me the only way they would approve it is me put up a $200,000 bond for the road. And when I came to the committee, all my documentations, all my test results are more than county specifications as far as the PUD, the PUG, the binder, the topping, the soils, everything. The compaction test is more than what county requires. So
And who paid for those testing?
I paid $8,200 for all the tests.
And we have an engineer that we're paying on site, but you're also having to pay an additional engineer?
Yes. Well, I pay Geo Services, their licensed insured bonding company, testing company. That's who I pay, Geo Services.
Mr. Mayor, can you find out if we have subdivision regs or somebody on the planning commission, Mike Hughes, we'll task you with that, Commissioner, since you're on that planning commission. Can you find out for us, is there anything in subdivision regs that require us to have an engineer on staff or for us to have our own Bradley County engineer? If our developers are having to pay for a separate engineer and yet we're also paying for an engineer, it doesn't make any sense why we're wasting taxpayers' dollars. So if you can find me out those answers, I would be so much obliged. Continue, Mr. Lakeman, too.
Well, you know, we met, there was a few problems with the road that they talked about, so I had Matt McCarley and Sandra and Herman, the paving foreman, and my paving guy, Mike Stevenson, and me. We all met on the job, and we all come up with a conclusion of what needs to happen to be okay, you know. So Mike Stevenson come and made those repairs. And then she came back, I didn't see Mac, but Sandra came back and looked at them. Then I had to cut the throats out that was paved, and I had to cut them out in concrete, and that's the way she wanted it done, so we did that. It's just been one thing after another.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ware.
could we ask Robert is there a way to expedite this? Isn't there a way that we can say that this was on the agenda, so it's not a non-agenda item? We've gone through the agenda, but there's an error in the agenda.
I think the problem was there's supposed to be a paper that Sandra sends up here to say that. And I talked to her today and texted her, and she said she'd try to get it up here. Then she called me and said she didn't have a letter from my engineer, which he emailed the letter Saturday. I got a copy. I've got a copy of the letter with me tonight if you want to look at it.
Commissioner Winters, to answer your question, the document that you have, this is the form that's supposed to be approved, and if you look at the order of signatures, they're all supposed to be signed. The two you all actually disapproved. I don't know if these have been signed off on or not, but the third road should have a document just like this, so that when it's passed, we know exactly where the road begins, where it's located. So this is the document that we use to create the road list. So without this document, my concern is we don't know what we're approving, and we don't know if it's been signed off on by these individuals.
So the signatures aren't there.
Correct.
So our only solution, technically, unless we vote on something that we don't have any ideas of, would be to wait until 2 weeks.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
actually what was passed was that the motion by Commissioner Alford was Talon Drive from Perch Lane intersection to the cul-de-sac. And that motion was what was passed 4-0. Now, grant you, it doesn't have measurements, but it does tell a location of where it starts and ends at.
Is that sufficient, Ms. Robert?
Not the way we normally do it. It's not the way the subdivision regs.
Can you do it contingent on her documentation? Or do we wait 2 weeks?
You could definitely do it contingent, but I don't know what my concern is the width of the road, the length of the road. Do you have any of that information?
I've got a plat right here, shows all that.
That would be the concern, but you certainly could approve it pending getting the form that shows what
The
it's supposed to be.
contingent matches what's on the plat.
Well, and what I guess has been signed off on by our county engineer, the stormwater inspector, planning commission, and all those other people that are supposed to sign off on the road before you all approve it.
So what is the procedure to go back into the agenda?
You all have to vote to suspend the rules and then go back and,
There's a distance on this plat too, if you need the distance.
Would someone make a motion to suspend the rules?
So
To go back to that?
Let's be explicit.
You want to call the roll? Go back and
suspend the rules.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters. Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Moe.
Yes.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this road based on a contingent approval based on the correct documentation is sent to the commission.
Second.
Got a
Yes.
second by Commissioner Peak. Discussion, Commissioner Poppins.
Yeah, some discussion. Sounds like somebody's not doing their job. The paper was supposed to be in to him today when that was said, and he didn't make it, so it sounds like somebody's not doing their job. So,
don't look at me
we
now.
need, I know, it looks to me like we need to do Mr. Manson's right and go with the pass this thing.
Commissioner Peak.
When did the road department meet, the committee?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. And so typically, when you have recommendations come out of there, then all the documentation is here at this voting session. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you. I had a question for Mr. Van Tate. You mentioned 14 weeks. That's an awful lot of time. Is that from the start of you requesting the road to be accepted?
Yes.
And you had all your documentation and all your engineering, all your testing done and turned in, and
Yes.
you have been waiting for 14 weeks?
Yes.
Wow. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Blake?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, would you repeat the contingency so we all fully understand it?
A contingent motion that we approve this road tonight,
Right.
with the contingency being all the required documentation must be turned in.
Must be turned in and matched what the expectation is?
Correct.
So if there's any differences or delta or any changes, then the contingency is not met.
Correct.
All right.
Can you give us the name of that road again?
Which one?
The third one that we
No,
didn't
we
approve.
didn't have
Talons Drive.
Talons Drive.
Talons Drive. Okay. Did you get the motion in a second?
I didn't get the second. Who said it?
Mr. Winter.
Mr. Winters was the second.
Okay.
All right, call the roll, please.
Okay. Goins?
Yes.
Slater?
Yes.
Mason?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Raper?
Yes.
Winters?
Yes.
Epperson?
Yes.
Hughes?
Yes.
Alford?
Yes.
Fry?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Mull?
Yes.
Peak? And
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Be 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Now we'll go back into communication from the audience. Anyone who wants to speak before the commission? State your name and address, please, sir.
Gene Kelp, 120 Brad Drive. I've been at this for 20 years. I come in here 3 months ago. They got part of my property on the road. They're supposed to move it over. That's what's holding it up. The pavement on Brad Drive. So they got to move the road over 14 foot off my property in order to get in there. That's the reason why they don't want to cut it in. And then they said that, told some of my neighbors that Brad Drive is not part of the county. And the county cut the road in 20 years ago. And they bush hog it every year. And then I've asked for the last 6 years to put rock on it. They keep telling me my road's blacktop. And I keep telling them somebody stole my blacktop. So they're not putting no rock on my road. I've not done nothing. I just like it at blacktop, where I can blacktop my driveway, keep my trucks clean.
Mr. Peak.
And Mr. Delk, I think they said they're waiting on a survey. They've been waiting on a survey for an awful long time. And I know several of your properties have already got your individual surveys approved where the road goes. Is that correct?
There's no surveys out there because everything's marked.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I haven't
So,
surveyed.
You didn't get your surveyed, but is she
The guy that
waiting?
bought
Is
my
that
land
what you're
behind me
saying?
surveyed that, and then there's markers all the way up through there where my property comes in. And there's markers on the other side of the road where the property goes to too. The guy across from me has moved his fence over 20 foot off the road where the road goes. It's marked all the way down through there.
And so the rest of Harbor Hills is being paved currently, and they've already.
They said it's not part of the community, not part of the road. It's not part of Bradley County Road Department. That's what they told me. Then I called, they 6 years ago, I think 6, 7 years ago, they blacktopped the Harbor Hills. Then I called them up, I said, I need rock on Brad Drive. It's been blacktopped. It's not been blacktopped. Now, then I called back and they said, well, there's only one house on Brad Drive. I said, oh, there's 3 driveways. The 2 on the corner has driveways. Now they got 2 more new houses across there. Now they got their driveway stopped where the property line goes. That's where they concrete it in. My driveway stopped and it's 6 foot beyond my driveway, and then it goes across the road and down. That's the reason why it's a hold up, because they don't want to cut my road in and fix my yard back.
Mr. Mason, you've got this on the road committee to get us an update for that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dale.
Okay. Let us know when you set that up. They said, thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak before the commission?
How y'all doing? I hope y'all saw our voter guide. If you don't have a card or you don't know, it's, BradleyVotingGuide.com. Do we have a audit committee chairman? Can anybody?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So, since we have a chairman, have we set an audit committee date yet?
I'm not aware of the date. I know we've reached out to have the date with the people in Nashville.
So there is not a date, or you're just not aware of a date?
I'm not aware of a date.
So there's not a date. If there was a date, would you not say that there was a date?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's not a date, so we cleared that up. So we just continue along this whole facade here to push this out past the election. That's what it appears that we're doing. There's a lot of people here want to know what you're doing. I guess I'm not going to get an answer. So let me ask you this: Has anybody read the full document on the stimulus money that you've taken? Has anybody read that document, the whole document? You've read the whole document?
It's awful. It's boring. And long.
Okay, so you don't see any problem with that document?
Pretty straightforward.
Well, so none of you commissioners have read the document. Did anyone request that the county attorney read the document? Okay. All right. Thanks.
Anyone else want to speak for the commission?
I'll follow that one up.
I got one more question. Where do I go now, Tim? I mean, what do I do? I still have to get my plat signed. Do I proceed getting my plat signed and everything? Just
I'll reach out to Sam in the morning.
okay. You can give me a call and let me know what to do. Thanks.
And I apologize to Mr. Manford for delays.
Yes, sir.
John Anthony, 375 Danbury Drive, and follow up on that word about have you read the documents. I know you haven't because you don't have them. The documents that you get are backed up by an authority. That's about 1,200 or 1,300 pages long. And the obligations that you have are not, you can't use it to pay down debt. That's kind of the easy stuff. Behind that, there's other documents. And those are the ones that create restrictions and binding, and that gets kind of tacky. So you want to be sure you look at those. And what I'm going to do is, actually I've read a lot of them because for 15 years I've studied those documents. And very often there's strings. So there may not be in the one that you took. I don't know, because I actually haven't looked at the one specifically you're talking about. But Mr. Epperson, I heard you talking about all these millions of dollars. It's just like come floating down out of the air. I think that's really neat. But it's not free. And we need to look at that. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you or Mike can give me the kind of a breakdown of exactly what grants it is that you're talking about accepting. I can look behind that, and I can show you what's in there. And then you can bring it to the rest of the commissioners here, and we can see if that's something you really want to do or not. But you always have to read the contracts, and I know you do. Because there's a lot of data back there, and sometimes it's not all that it's cracked up to be. That's it.
Thanks, sir. Someone else want to speak for the commission? Yes, sir. State your name and address, please.
I'm Bill Sanders, pardon my unique back. Mayor Davis, Chairman Mull, and ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, I'm here to say thank you for the work you've done on the landfill and trying to help us with a serious problem. And I appreciate the monitoring program. It's come a long way. There's a few, as we all know, there's a few time slots that needs to be looked at. But I just want to tell you how much I appreciate it, and your work, and your effort, and our patience, and me getting up here and banging around. Two things I do want to say. I'm a little premature. I'm going to go for the landfill committee first. But I want you to consider strongly about the new element that you're about to consider regarding the liquid waste. Our big objection, and all of our neighbors and everybody around, big objection was odor. Now, I personally, my wife and I have endured this as well as all of our neighbors, and we hate to go through another odor situation. You cannot screen odor. You can screen appearance, which is not bad there. You can screen a lot of things, but you cannot screen odor. I want you to consider real strongly before you pass an ordinance that doesn't have the following language somewhere in it. If there is an odor, then, and proven so, then the contract, if it's in the contract, it'll void the contract if there is odor. And this is a very important point. I do this in my contract. I've signed a couple. If I don't do what I say to the party I'm working with, my contract is void. There ought to be a certain correction time, of course, if there is an odor, but it's got to be a strong consideration. And we'll discuss that more, hopefully, in the landscape committee. Secondly, I appreciate you considering the south side. We're getting a few developments going, and they're good, and we're trying to play with one or two on the hill down there, and we've been very slow. We'll have a small crew there working because we are waiting to see how the outcome is of the landfill. I've been a major developer in the past, Walmart centers, high-rise apartments, and I know, and working with national people and local people, if you bring them to your site and they smell what we've been smelling in the past, then we're not going to sell it. We're not going to develop it. And I'm not going to develop and try to get tenants for that. So that's what we're faced with. We think we've got almost over 80 acres down there at the interchange. And I feel that we can produce more taxes and more income for the county through property taxes and sales taxes than we can benefit from bringing in noxious odor waste. And I'm sure you're going to consider that. And that's been a big reason, one of the big reasons that the south side hasn't been developed before now. There's a lot of land down there, and we have a little bit, and we'd like to develop it, and a lot of other people would. So please consider that, and again, I thank you for your help and your work, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Anyone else wants to talk before the commission? Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Attorney,
Yes.
you was not part of my quote a while ago.
Okay.
I think you do your job very well. So I just want to pass that on to you.
Thank you.
I think she knows that. Commissioner Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry with you. I'd like to put on the agenda, we have a work session next week. I'd like to put as agenda item the funding for the sewer bucket and then start that discussion. If you don't mind, put that on the agenda for us to start that, I appreciate it.
Okay. Any other communication from the office? Okay, announcements. We have work session Monday, April 11th at noon here at the courthouse. The Forum Commission Districts 1 through 3 will be tomorrow, Tuesday at 4 o'clock at the Chamber of Commerce. The Forum Commission Districts, is that about right? It should be 4 through 7, not 2 through 3, correct? On April 7th, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Will be April 7th at 4 o'clock at the Chamber of Commerce. The Farmers Market North opens Saturday, April 9th, that's this Saturday. The Hot Slaw and Art Y'all Festival will be April 9th, noon to 9 o'clock here downtown square. And Tennessee Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton, April 9th, 3 o'clock at the Pie Center.